The planet Kepler 442b was covered in smoke and fire. The Corvan Empire had just finished their biggest attack yet. Their giant war machines had turned the human military base into twisted metal and ash. Everything was destroyed, or so they thought. The alien soldiers walked through the wreckage looking for survivors. They were 8 feet tall with 4 arms and hard shell-like skin covering their bodies. Each one carried weapons that could destroy a building with one shot squad. Leader. Day. Ho moved his team forward through the burning ruins. Their sensors showed that every human was dead. The orbital bombardment from space had been perfect. Nothing could have survived the massive explosions that had shaken the entire continent. But then they heard something impossible. The sound made every Corvan soldier stop walking and raise their weapons. Someone was laughing. The laughter was loud and clear coming from somewhere ahead. It was not the bitter laugh of someone going crazy. It was pure joy, like someone had just heard the funniest joke in the universe. Day-Ho had been fighting wars for 20 years. He had conquered 12 different planets for the Corvan Empire. He had never heard anything like this. The squad moved carefully. Between broken pieces of human vehicles and destroyed buildings, the laughter got louder as they got closer. Finally, they found where it was coming from. A human soldier was sitting on top of a pile of destroyed Corvan battle mechs. His legs were crossed like he was having a picnic. His left arm hung at a strange angle, showing it was broken. His uniform was torn and dirty, but he kept laughing until tears ran down his face. Private First Class. Tai Min looked up at the circle of alien warriors. Surrounding him, each Corvan pointed their plasma rifles at his head, but he just smiled wider. The translator device on Day-Ho's belt crackled to life as he spoke in the harsh Corvan language. What is so funny, human? Your friends are all dead. Your base is destroyed. You have no weapons and no way to escape. Timon wiped his eyes and took a deep breath to control his laughter. He looked directly at Day-Ho with bright eyes that held no fear at all. You actually think you won, he said, starting to laugh again. That is the funniest thing I have heard all day. The Corvan soldiers looked at each other through their helmet displays. Their advanced scanners showed no other human life signs anywhere on the planet. Their spaceships had bombed every human building until nothing was left. Intelligence reports confirmed this was the last human military base in this part of space. Yet something about the humans' expression made these battle-tested warriors feel uncomfortable. It was not the look of someone who had lost everything. It was the look of someone who knew a secret. Day-Ho stepped closer, keeping his weapon aimed at the human's chest. His 4 hands could move faster than human eyes could follow. His armor could stop bullets, and his strength could crush human bones like twigs. But the human just kept smiling. Tell us what you know, or we will make you suffer, Tai Min nodded as if this was a reasonable request. He shifted position on the pile of metal and winced as his broken arm moved. I know lots of things, he said cheerfully. I know that you spent 3 months planning this attack. I know that you brought your best soldiers and your most powerful ships. I know that your commanders think they just won a great victory. The Corvan soldiers tensed, ready to fire, but Day-Ho held up one hand. He wanted to hear what the human would say next. I also know, he continued, that you have no idea what you just did. The translator struggled with the human's tone. It was conversational, like he was talking to friends instead of enemies who could kill him instantly. The Corvans had studied human psychology for years. They knew humans showed fear, anger, or sadness when facing death. This calm amusement was not in any of their reports. Day-Ho activated his communication device and sent a message to command. They needed an interrogation specialist, someone who could break this human and find out what he was hiding. The human watched this with interest, as if he was learning something useful. More friends coming to the party, Tai Min asked. That sounds fun. I have been getting lonely. The squad leader felt a chill run through his body, though he did not understand why the human was completely helpless, surrounded by superior force. With no chance of rescue, yet he acted like he was exactly where he wanted to be. Within an hour, a transport ship landed near the ruins. A tall figure emerged wearing the dark armor of the Corvan Intelligence Division. Commander Su Jin was known throughout the Empire as someone who could make anyone tell the truth. Her methods were efficient and thorough. No prisoner had ever kept secrets from her for long as she approached the human. Tai Min waved with his good hand like greeting an old friend. "You must be the expert," he said. "Happy to meet you. I hope you are better at asking questions than these soldiers were." They seemed confused about something. Su Jin studied the human with her 6 eyes, noting every detail of his appearance and behavior. In her experience, prisoners who acted fearless were usually hiding the greatest fear of all. She would enjoy breaking this one. The human was loaded into a containment unit on the transport ship. As they flew toward the Corvan command base, Tai Min looked out the window at the destroyed human outpost below. His smile never faded. "See you later, friends," he whispered to the ruins. "Thanks for everything." None of the Corvan soldiers understood what he meant. They assumed he was saying goodbye to his dead comrades. They had no way of knowing that the real message had been sent hours ago, when the first bombs started falling. One word transmitted across space to Earth before the communication array was destroyed. Party on Earth, that single word had started the largest military operation in human history. But the Corvans would not learn this until it was far too late. They thought they had captured a broken survivor. Instead, they had taken the bait in the most elaborate trap ever constructed. The human empire was about to show the galaxy what happened when someone made the mistake of threatening Earth. Tai Min settled back in his containment cell, still chuckling softly. The next few days were going to be very interesting. The Corvan intelligence facility was built deep underground on their fortress world. The walls were made of the strongest metal in the galaxy, designed to hold the most dangerous prisoners. The interrogation rooms used technology that could break minds and extract memories directly from a subject's brain. Commander Su Jin had used these tools to question leaders from dozens of species. None had ever resisted for more than a few hours. She stood outside cell number 7, studying the file. On her new subject, human designation Tai Min, Korean male, age 24, served 3 years in Earth military, no special training or advanced skills. His psychological profile showed normal human responses to stress, fear, and pain. According to all their data, he should be easy to break. The cell door opened with a soft hiss. Tai Min sat on the metal bench, still wearing his torn uniform. Someone had set his broken arm properly and given him basic medical care. He looked up when she entered and smiled like seeing a good friend, Commander Su Jin. "I assume," he said in perfect Corvan language, "your reputation precedes you. I am honored to finally meet someone competent." The commander stopped walking. She had not told him her name or rank. The translator should not have taught him their language so quickly. Yet he spoke with proper grammar and even used formal address suitable for her position. "You speak our language. I learn fast," Tai Min replied, switching back to human speech. "Some of us do. Anyway, I have been studying Corvan culture for quite a while. Your people are fascinating in so many ways." Su Jin activated the room's pain amplifier system. Invisible energy filled the air, targeting the human's nervous system. The setting was low, enough to cause severe discomfort without permanent damage. Most subjects began talking immediately to make the pain stop. Tai Min closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, he was still smiling. "That tickles," he said. "Could you turn it up a little? I want to see what the higher settings feel like." The commander increased the power to maximum. The energy levels were high enough to make most creatures unconscious from pure agony. The human made a soft humming sound, like he was enjoying pleasant music. "This is quite nice," he commented. "It reminds me of the massage chairs back on Earth. Though those were more relaxing, this is more energizing. So." Jin turned off the device and made notes on her data pad. Either the human had incredible pain tolerance, or their medical scans had missed some kind of enhancement technology. She decided to try a different approach. The next 6 hours involved every interrogation technique in the Corvin Manual Truth serums that forced honest answers had no effect. Chemical compounds that caused fear and panic only made him more talkative. Sensory deprivation chambers that drove prisoners insane with isolation became places where he took pleasant naps. Finally, Su Jin sat across from him at a metal table. Her 6 eyes showed the frustration she tried to hide. Nothing in her training had prepared her for a subject like this. "What do you want?" she asked. "That is a much better question," Tai Min said, leaning forward with interest. "I want to understand why your people think they are so smart. You have this massive empire, you have conquered half the galaxy, you have technology that can destroy planets, yet you missed something very important. Tell me, you have been studying humans for years, learning about our weapons, our tactics, our military organization, but you never understood what makes us truly dangerous." The commander activated her recording device. This was the first useful information she might extract. "Enlighten me, Tai." Min stood up and walked to the cell's single window. It looked out over the Corvin military base with its towering buildings and advanced defenses. "We are completely insane," he said, turning back to face her. "That is our greatest strength and your biggest." Mistake. Su Jin frowned. The statement made no sense by any logical measure. "Explain. You attacked our outpost expecting us to fight like normal military forces. You thought we would use our weapons. Try to defend our position. Maybe call for reinforcements. When we started losing, instead we did something no sane species would ever do, which was we used ourselves as bait." Tai Min walked back to the table and sat down, his expression becoming serious for the first time since his capture. Everyone at that base knew they were going to die. "We set up the whole operation to look like an important target, something you would want to destroy. We filled it with equipment that looked valuable, intelligence that seemed useful but was actually fake. We made sure your spies would discover it and report back to command." The commander leaned forward. "This was starting to sound like useful intelligence. Then when you attacked, we did not try to win. We just made sure the right message got sent back to Earth. Before your bombs finished the job. One word that would tell our people the trap had worked." "What word?" Tai Min smiled again. But this time there was something cold behind his eyes. Party before Su Jin could ask what that meant. Alarms began sounding. Throughout the facility, emergency lights flashed red, and the commander's communication device started receiving urgent messages. The voices speaking over the channel sounded panicked. Problems with the communication network, multiple system failures. Across the sector, fleet commanders reporting equipment malfunctions, requests for immediate technical support from 17 different installations. The commander looked at her prisoner with new understanding in her 6 eyes. The human nodded as if confirming her worst fears. "It has already started?" he said quietly. "While you have been questioning me, my people have been very busy. Your empire is about to learn why attacking Earth is always a mistake." On Earth, the Global Defense Network headquarters was built 5 miles underground beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility could survive direct nuclear attack and had enough supplies to last for decades. General Hai Jin commanded humanity's most elite military unit. But today she felt like a woman watching her greatest fears come true. The communications center was chaos. 20 technicians worked frantically at computer terminals, while holographic displays showed star maps of human space. Each red dot represented a human colony or outpost that had gone silent in the past month. The Corvin Empire was systematically destroying everything humanity had built beyond the solar system. Then the single-word message arrived from Kepler 442-2b Party. Every person in the command center stopped what they were doing. The room became so quiet you could hear the air recycling systems. The word appeared on the main display in simple text, but everyone understood its meaning. This was the signal they had been preparing for during 50 years of careful planning. Lieutenant Nam Wu ran to the general station carrying a datapad with confirmation codes. His face showed excitement mixed with fear. Mime, the transmission originated from the Kepler outpost. Just before their communication array was destroyed, we have confirmation that package delivery is now active. General Haijin stood up and walked to the main display. The word party still glowed on the screen like a promise of things to come. She had helped design this operation when she was just a young officer. Now she was old enough to see it put into action. Activate Protocol Chaos, she said clearly. Every technician began typing commands into their systems. Across Earth, similar commands were being sent to secret facilities hidden on every continent. The most patient military operation in human history was finally beginning. The plan had started during the first contact with alien species. Humans quickly learned they were not the strongest or most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Every other race had better weapons, better ships, better technology, but humans had something unique that no alien species understood. They were natural-born liars, while diplomats talked about peace and cooperation while human refugees fled from alien attacks, while Earth appeared to surrender territory without fighting. The real work was happening in secret. Human intelligence officers had spent decades studying alien psychology, learning their languages, understanding their cultures. Most importantly, they learned how to become invisible. The Sleeper Agent program was humanity's greatest achievement. Volunteers had undergone surgery to change their appearance, learned to speak alien languages perfectly, and spent years establishing false identities. The best agents had joined alien military forces and worked their way up to positions of trust. Some had even married aliens and started families that had no idea their spouse was human captain. So Young had been living on the Corvin dreadnought, Eternal Victory, for 3 years. Her fellow crew members knew her as Zik Mara, a refugee from a destroyed world who had proven her loyalty in several battles. She worked in the ship's communication center, where she had access to fleet-wide tactical networks. When the party message reached her encrypted receiver, she felt her heart start beating faster. 3 years of playing the role of a grateful alien citizen were about to end. She looked around the communication center at her Corvin colleagues. Some had become real friends, people she genuinely cared about, that made what she had to do even harder. So Young activated a hidden program in her workstation. The code began spreading through the ship's computer network, making tiny changes to critical systems. The navigation computers would start giving coordinates that were off by exactly 1 degree. The weapon targeting systems would develop a delay of 3 seconds. The life support monitors would show false readings that would cause unnecessary alerts. None of these changes would be noticed immediately. Each one was small enough to seem like normal equipment wear. The real damage would come when dozens of similar problems started happening at the same time across the entire Corvin fleet. Similar scenes were playing out on hundreds of ships and installations throughout Corvin space. Human agents who had spent years building trust and proving loyalty were now activating programs that would slowly destroy their adopted civilizations from within. Sergeant Yun Su worked at the primary communication relay station for the entire Corvin military. For 2 years, he had been the model employee. Always on time, never complaining. Excellent at solving technical problems. His supervisors considered him one of their most valuable technicians. They had no idea he had been systematically installing backdoor access codes in every system he touched when his activation message arrived. Hyun Soo began Phase 1 of his mission. Instead of causing immediate damage, he started collecting information. Every message that passed through the relay was copied and stored. Every command from high-ranking officers was recorded. Every ship movement and supply request was documented. This intelligence would be transmitted back to Earth using quantum communication channels the Corvins did not know existed. Within hours, human command would have complete real-time information about every aspect of Corvin military operations. They would know where every ship was located, what weapons each installation had, and what orders were being given to field commanders. The beauty of the plan was its patience. These agents had been in position for years, waiting for the right moment. They had not been saboteurs looking for chances to cause damage. Instead, they had been time bombs counting down to zero. When the party signal reached them, they did not explode immediately. They began a carefully coordinated sequence that would unfold over several days. Dr. Mi Young had earned genuine respect working in Corvin weapons development. Her alien colleagues saw her as a brilliant engineer who had contributed to their most advanced military technology. She had helped design the new plasma rifles that were being manufactured for every soldier in the Empire. What they did not know was that she had built hidden flaws into the weapon specifications. The rifles would work perfectly for exactly 1,000 shots. Then a tiny component would overheat, causing the entire weapon to explode in the user's hands. The manufacturing plants had already produced millions of these flawed weapons and distributed them throughout the military. Mi Young looked at her latest project, a new type of armor that would protect Corvin soldiers from human weapons. She had made sure this armor had similar hidden problems that would reveal themselves at the worst possible moment. Back on Earth, General Hai Jin watched as status reports came in from agents across the galaxy. The Sleeper Network was fully activated and beginning their missions. Each agent represented years of investment and training. Now they were about to prove that humans could fight wars in ways no alien species could imagine or defend against. The Corvin Empire was about to discover what happened when you declared war on the most devious species in the galaxy. Across the vast territory of the Corvin Empire, the first signs of system failure began appearing like cracks in a massive dam. Lieutenant Wook Jin commanded a patrol squadron on the outer rim of Corvin space. His ships were equipped with the newest technology and crewed by experienced veterans. For the past week, however, everything seemed to be going wrong. Navigation computers gave coordinates that led his ships toward asteroid fields instead of their patrol routes. Weapon systems developed. Mysterious delays that made target practice impossible. Communication arrays picked up strange interference that scrambled important messages. The engineering crews blamed it on equipment wear, but Wook Jin had never seen so many problems at once. His flagship, the Technical Specialist, was a quiet alien who had joined their crew 2 years ago. Yul Mei was known for solving difficult problems quickly. Her species was naturally good with complex technology, and she had proven her loyalty in several dangerous missions. The lieutenant trusted her completely. Yul Mei worked alone in the ship's computer core, making small adjustments to critical systems. Each change was so minor that the automatic monitoring programs did not notice anything wrong. A timing circuit here, a calibration setting. There, tiny modifications that would cause major problems when they accumulated over time. She had spent 2 years learning every detail of Corvin military technology. The weapons, the shields, the communication systems, the navigation computers. Everything had weaknesses that could be exploited if you knew where to look. The human engineers who had trained her before this mission had taught her exactly what to target. Meanwhile, on the industrial world of Corvin Prime, Dr. Mi Young was implementing the next phase of her mission. The weapons manufacturing plants were operating at full capacity, trying to replace equipment lost in recent battles. Quality control inspectors were working overtime to make sure every rifle met specifications. What they did not know was that those specifications had been carefully altered. The changes were so subtle that even detailed testing would not reveal the problems. The new weapons would pass every inspection and perform perfectly during training. But after exactly 1,000 shots, a hidden flaw would cause catastrophic failure. Ma Young watched as transport ships loaded millions of the sabotaged weapons for delivery to frontline troops. She felt sick, knowing that Corvin soldiers who trusted her work would die when their rifles exploded. But this was war, and humanity was fighting for its survival. The Corvin Empire had chosen to be the aggressor. At the Central Communication Hub, Sergeant Hyun, Sue continued collecting intelligence about Corvin military operations. Every message that passed through his station was copied and analyzed. Every troop movement, every supply request, every strategic plan was documented and transmitted back to Earth. The quantum communication system allowed instant transmission across any distance without the possibility of interception. Human commanders now knew more about Corvin military operations than most Corvin officers. They could predict enemy movements and prepare countermeasures before attacks even began. But the most important part of Hyun-Soo's mission was yet to come. Soon, he would begin introducing false information into the communication network. Enemy commanders would receive orders that were slightly different from what was actually sent. Supply ships would be directed to the wrong coordinates. Military intelligence would be corrupted with fake reports. The psychological warfare was already beginning. Corvin officers started questioning their equipment, their subordinates, and eventually their own judgment. When technology failed repeatedly, when simple operations became complicated, when trusted systems produced unreliable results, even experienced commanders became hesitant and uncertain. Captain So Young aboard the dreadnought Eternal Victory watched her Corvin crewmates struggle with increasingly frequent technical problems. The navigation officer could not understand why his computers kept miscalculating jump coordinates. The weapons officer complained that targeting systems were becoming unreliable. The engineering chief reported mysterious power fluctuations that made no sense. Each problem by itself seemed minor. Normal equipment maintenance should have solved most of them. But when dozens of small problems happened simultaneously, the cumulative effect was devastating. Ship commanders spent more time dealing with technical issues than planning military operations. The beauty of the human strategy was that it attacked the Corvin's greatest strength, their technological superiority. The Empire was built on the assumption that their advanced systems were reliable and efficient. When those systems began failing in subtle ways, the entire command structure started breaking down. Fleet admirals received conflicting reports from different sources. Ship captains could not trust their navigation computers to plot safe courses. Ground commanders found their communication equipment unreliable. Supply officers discovered that computer inventories did not match actual warehouse contents. Slowly but steadily, the mighty Corvin war machine was grinding to a halt, not because of external attack, but because of internal system failure. The humans had turned the Empire's own technology against itself on Earth. General Hai Jin monitored the progress of Operation Chaos through real-time intelligence reports. Her agents were performing better than anyone had hoped. The Corvin military was experiencing exactly the kind of cascading system failure that human planners had predicted. The general looked at the strategic display showing Corvin space. Every red indicator represented a military unit experiencing significant technical problems. Every yellow marker showed installations with reduced operational capacity. The pattern was spreading like a virus through their entire civilization. In just 72 hours since the party signal was sent, humanity had achieved something no conventional military force could have accomplished. They had crippled the most powerful empire in the galaxy without firing a single shot. The Corvins still did not realize they were under attack. They thought they were experiencing an unprecedented wave of equipment failures. Soon, however, the technical problems would escalate beyond anything that could be explained by normal system malfunction. When that happened, the real psychological warfare would begin. Corvin commanders would start to understand that their empire was not just experiencing bad luck, it was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they had never seen coming. The Corvin Empire had ruled the galaxy for over 3 centuries through superior technology and military organization. Their communication networks connected thousands of worlds. Their supply chains moved resources across vast distances, and their command structure coordinated millions of soldiers with precise efficiency. This system had never failed because it had never been attacked from within. Now it was falling apart. Like a house built on sand, Admiral Dong-hyun sat in the war room on Earth watching real-time reports from across Corvin space. The holographic display showed their empire as a network of interconnected systems. Each node represented a military installation communication hub or supply depot. The connections between them showed the flow of information and resources that kept their civilization running. Over the past 4 days, those connections had been turning red as critical failures spread throughout their infrastructure. Communication delays that started as minor inconveniences had grown into complete blackouts. Supply shipments that missed their destinations by small margins now arrived at completely wrong star systems. Navigation errors that caused slight course corrections had escalated into major fleet movements going astray. The most devastating failures were happening in their weapons manufacturing. The plasma rifles that Dr. Mi Young had sabotaged were reaching their critical failure point. Across the Empire, Corvin soldiers were conducting routine weapon maintenance when their rifles exploded without warning. The explosions killed thousands of troops and destroyed vital equipment. Military commanders faced an impossible choice. They could continue using weapons that might kill their own soldiers, or they could disarm their forces while investigating the problem. Either way, their combat effectiveness dropped to almost zero. The weapons recall affected 15 million rifles, forcing entire divisions out of active service. Meanwhile, communication networks experienced cascading failures as Sergeant Hyun-Soo's false information spread through their systems. Fleet commanders received contradictory orders that made no logical sense. Supply officers got requests for impossible amounts of equipment that could not exist. Navigation centers plotted courses to planets that were not where the computers claimed they should be. The psychological impact was more destructive than any physical attack. Corvin officers had built their careers on the reliability of their technology. When that technology became untrustworthy, their confidence collapsed. Experienced commanders second-guessed every decision. Simple operations required multiple confirmations and backup systems. Fear spread through the ranks faster than any virus. Soldiers who had never questioned their equipment now approached every device with suspicion. Engineers who had maintained systems for decades began finding problems that should not exist. Support staff reported strange malfunctions that defied logical explanation on the fortress world where Tai Min was held prisoner. Commander Su Jin watched her own facility succumb to the growing chaos. The underground base had been designed to operate independently, even if cut off from the rest of the Empire. But now their internal systems were failing, just like everywhere else. Security doors opened and closed randomly. Power fluctuations caused equipment shutdowns. Communication arrays picked up signals from empty space. Computer terminals displayed error messages that technical staff had never seen before. The commander realized that whatever was happening to the Empire had somehow reached inside their most secure installation in the detention center. Tai Min's laughter had returned, but now it carried a different quality. The sound echoed through corridors filled with confused guards and malfunctioning equipment. His Corvin captors no longer found his amusement mysterious. They were beginning to understand what he had been trying to tell them. "You still think this is equipment failure?" Tai Min asked when Su Jin visited his cell. The lights flickered as if responding to his question, and emergency power systems activated with a low humming sound. The commander stared at him with all 6 eyes, trying to comprehend the scope of what was happening. How long have your people been inside our systems? Tae-min considered the question carefully as if calculating something complex. Inside your systems. About 5 years inside your civilization. Much longer than that. What does that mean? It means that the humans you think you know, the refugees who joined your military, the engineers who helped build your weapons, the technicians who maintain your computers, the colonists who settled on your worlds, the traders who do business in your cities. He paused to let the implications sink in. Some of them are not what they appear to be. Soo-jin felt a chill of understanding. The scope of infiltration that was describing would require decades of planning and resources beyond anything they had imagined, but it would explain the systematic nature of the failures they were experiencing. How many Tae-min smiled with genuine warmth, as if she had asked about his family. Enough. The word hung in the air between them, loaded with terrible meaning. The commander realized that her empire was not experiencing technical difficulties. They were under attack by an enemy who had been preparing for this moment longer than she had been alive. Outside the detention facility, alarms continued sounding as more systems failed. The mighty Corvin war machine was breaking down, not because of external bombardment, but because the humans had turned their own technology into a weapon against them. On Earth, General Hai-jin received the final intelligence report she needed to authorize the next phase. Every major Corvin military installation was experiencing critical system failures. Their fleet communications were compromised, their supply lines were disrupted, and their command structure was in chaos. The empire that had seemed invincible just 1 week ago was now helpless to defend itself. It was time for the revelation that would complete their psychological destruction. The Corvins were about to learn that their entire civilization had been infiltrated by the species they thought they had defeated. The morning sun rose over Kepler 442b, casting long shadows across the ruins of the human outpost. The Corvin military base that had been built nearby was now in complete chaos. Emergency vehicles raced between buildings while officers shouted confused orders into communication devices that barely functioned. The pride of their empire had become a scene of panic and disorder. In the detention facility, Commander Soo-jin stood outside Tae-min's cell reading reports that made no sense. 17 different star systems had lost contact with Central Command. The main weapons factory on Corvin Prime had exploded, killing thousands of workers. Supply convoys were arriving at empty coordinates instead of their destinations. Fleet admirals were requesting immediate support for problems that should not exist. She looked through the energy barrier at her prisoner. The human sat calmly on his metal bench, watching her with patient eyes. His broken arm had healed enough that he could move it without obvious pain. His torn uniform had been replaced with standard prison clothing, but his expression remained the same confident amusement that had puzzled her from the beginning. "Tell me how this ends," she said quietly. Tae-min stood and walked to the cell. Window. The view showed the Corvin base in the distance with its towering communication arrays and defensive systems. Half the equipment was dark or showing error displays. The organized efficiency that defined Corvin military operations had been replaced by barely controlled chaos. "It ends with understanding," he said, turning back to face her. "Your empire spent centuries conquering other species because you believed your technology made you superior. You built your civilization on the assumption that advanced systems could solve any problem, but you never considered what would happen if those systems were turned against you." The lights in the detention center flickered again. This time they stayed dim while backup power systems struggled to compensate. The commander realized that even their most secure facility was failing. "You have been planning this for decades." "Longer than that," Tae-min replied. "We started preparing before your empire even knew Earth existed. The first human agents were already in place when your scouts made contact with our solar system." "How is that possible?" "Because we saw you coming, Soo-jin." He walked closer to the energy barrier separating them. Humans have been watching alien civilizations for centuries. We knew that eventually someone would try to conquer us, so we prepared. The commander felt a growing sense of horror as the implications became clear. Every interaction between humans and Corvins, every diplomatic meeting, every cultural exchange, every refugee placement had been part of an elaborate deception. The humans who joined our military, some of them were your people, some of them were ours. The ones who were ours had been trained since childhood to pass for refugees. They learned. Your language perfectly studied your culture, understood your psychology, better than you understood it yourselves. Su-Jin thought about the alien crew members she had worked with over the years, the quiet technicians who solved difficult problems, the refugee colonists who had integrated into Corvin society, the engineers who had contributed to weapons development. How many had been human agents, the weapons failures, the communication problems, the navigation errors, all part of the same plan. Tai Min confirmed, "Your people trusted ours because we made ourselves useful. We solved problems, fixed equipment, improved systems. For years, we proved our loyalty and competence. Then when the signal was sent, we used that access to bring everything down at once." Outside the detention facility, the sounds of chaos were growing louder, vehicle alarms mixed with emergency announcements and confused shouting. The Corvin military machine was grinding to a complete halt as system after system failed, beyond repair. But why, Commander Su-Jin asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Why go to such elaborate lengths when you could have simply fought us directly? Tai Min laughed softly, but there was sadness in his eyes now. Because we are not warriors, like you. We are not stronger or faster or more technologically advanced. We survive by being smarter, by being more patient, by being willing to do whatever it takes to protect our people. Your empire made the mistake of threatening Earth. That was never going to end well for anyone. The energy barrier flickered. As power fluctuations affected even the basic systems, the commander realized that their conversation might be the last normal communication she would have for a very long time. What happens now? Now you go home to whatever is left of your empire. You tell your leaders that they have a choice. They can continue this war against an enemy they cannot find, cannot fight, and cannot defeat, or they can negotiate a peace agreement that allows both our species to coexist. And if they choose war, Tai Min looked directly at her with eyes that held no malice but also no mercy, then you will discover that everything you have seen so far was just the beginning. Humans have contingency, plans that go much deeper than anything your people can imagine. We really are completely insane when it comes to protecting our civilization. The lights went out completely, plunging the detention center into darkness. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows while backup systems failed one by one. In the distance, explosions could be heard as critical equipment overloaded and destroyed itself. When the lights returned an hour later, Tai Min's cell was empty. The energy barrier had failed. During the power outage, security cameras showed no record of how he had escaped. The human who had been their prisoner, their source of intelligence, their key to understanding what was happening, had simply vanished. Commander Su-Jin stood alone, in the empty cell, reading a message that had been scratched into the metal wall with improvised tools. "Thank you for the conversation. I hope your people make the right choice." She looked out the window at the Corvin base where emergency crews were. Still trying to restore basic operations, communication with the fleet remained impossible. Navigation systems continued providing false information. Weapons manufacturing had stopped completely. The empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was falling apart in real time. On Earth, General Hai Jin received final confirmation that Operation Chaos had succeeded beyond all expectations. The Corvin Empire was requesting immediate negotiation talks their military commanders were asking. for technical assistance to repair their damaged systems. Their political leaders were offering territorial concessions in exchange for an end to the mysterious system. Failures. Humanity had won a war without firing a shot, without losing a single battle, without even revealing that they were fighting. The most powerful empire in the galaxy had been brought to its knees by patience, planning, and the willingness to do whatever was necessary to protect Earth. The age of Corvan dominance was over. The age of human influence had begun, and across the galaxy, former prisoners and refugees began disappearing from their assigned locations, making their way back to human space, carrying with them detailed intelligence about every aspect of alien civilization. They had completed the greatest intelligence operation in history. The species that the galaxy had underestimated as primitive and weak had proven that humans were the most dangerous opponents anyone could face. Not because of their weapons or their technology, but because of their unlimited capacity for deception, sacrifice, and long-term strategic thinking, the Corvans had learned too late that declaring war on humanity was the worst mistake their empire had ever made.